Welcome to our podcast channel. Stay tuned for the latest message excerpt from Felicia Crawford Ministry.
If I may, let me speak with you about a subject that continues to fascinate, wow, and awe me. I have simply been amazed and often brought to silence about this aspect of God, His love. Have you ever asked God to reveal His love to you? And the more He reveals His love, the deeper you fall in love with Him. That's why the Apostle John, the one who laid his head in the bosom of Jesus, the one out of all the apostles seemed to have tapped into the revelation of God's love, wrote in 1 John 3:1, "Behold, what manner of love the Father has bestowed on us, that we should be called children of God." Paul adds in Ephesians 3:17-19, "that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all the saints what the width and length and depth and height, to know the love of Christ which passes knowledge, that you may be filled with the fullness of God." It is good to know how how wide and deep the love of God is for us. Now we are not too old to remember our first love. Some now are experiencing this for the first time. We remember how when we experienced falling in love for the first time, how this person was all we thought about. No matter how hard we tried, we couldn't get them off our mind. We remember the strong desire to want to be in their presence. And if we couldn't be in their presence, hearing their voice, talking on the phone would simply do. We found ourselves staying on the phone all night. It didn't matter that we had to get up early for school or work. We just had to keep that connection. It didn't even matter that both of you were falling asleep on the phone. Neither of you wanted to let go. Oh, what manner of love is this? It's all about love. God's love for you. Now imagine a father feeling that way about you. If you can grasp it 1,000,000,000 times more. This is what is so incomprehensible to me, that He would die for me. While I was still a sinner in enmity with Him, He still died for me. Romans 5:8, "But God demonstrated His own love toward us, and while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." I understand now the reason Jesus told us in Matthew 5:44, "But I say to you, love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you. And pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you." Verse 45, "That you may be sons of your Father in heaven. For He makes His sun rise on the evil and on the good, and send rain on the just and the unjust." 1 John 4:8, God is love. To know the love of God is to know God. To come into intimacy of the love of God is to come into the intimacy of God Himself. He loved us while we were still His enemies. Therefore, that's why to be like Him, we must in turn love our enemies and pray for those who spitefully use us, who persecute us, who talk about us. To come into the intimacy of the love of God is to come into the intimacy of God Himself. God knows that some of us just come to Him seeking His hand, His presence instead of His presence. His presence, His face, not His presence or His gifts. Now you do understand God knows the intentions of your heart. 1 Samuel 16:7. So please don't think you can get over on God. That's why I told Him at the beginning of my walk with Him that I am always going to be real with Him. I'm not going to pretend or perpetrate. I am going to give you all of me or none of me. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. You gave me all of you, so the least I could do is give you all of me. You paid a debt you did not owe. I owe a debt I could not pay. It's all about love. God demonstrates his love. So whenever you question the love of God for you, remember that he demonstrated his love. He put into action his love and displayed his love for you when he hung on that cross. They hung him high and spread him wide. He hung his head. For you he died. That's love. What is love? It is the greatest love letter ever written.
This excerpt is brought to you by Felicia Crawford Ministry.